Hi, Adapters TechX. Here we are at the Urban Living Festival at Canary Wharf, London. I'm so delighted to be here with Leo. Leo is it's this simple. Whatever you want to do in your building, it's worthless unless you've got a connection. So you're kind of like God or something. You connect everybody. So let's get everybody through what is exactly what you do, and then secondly, how do people navigate? How do companies then navigate through last mile security and the fact that you provide that? And how do you do that?
I guess what we do is we manage the connectivity life cycle in a building. So
that sounds complicated.
It is and it isn't. It's complicated for people who are trying to figure out what connectivity has to go into a building. We take out the complication for people. We come along and according to geographic location, according to the type of operator will run the building, we determine the primary connection that's required, we determine the backup connection that's required, and the amount of bandwidth that's needed to run that building. Then we back away and we let the construction phase happen, and we come back and we check that the ducts that we've recommended are in place, and we back away again. And the timing of the ordering of those connections is important to the operation, because we don't want billing to commence too soon. A mistake the main contractors make in their rush to get fiber into a building, they order it a year early, and then they're hit with charges. So we time all that, we manage it, and then we make sure that internet is ready to go live when the operator needs it. So once we have the internet sorted, it's how we distribute that internet. So it's a three-pronged approach. Connectivity is one, distribution of that broadband is the Wi-Fi network, as we call it, and then the support of that network once there are users trying to connect devices to it. We do the whole life cycle.
So when that scope of work is coming out and you're backing into that, I know when we did buildings, that conversation happened late, generally. How do you get in early enough to influence an infrastructural project that you offer, a product you offer, that's the same as water, air, electricity? Why do they seem to leave it to the last minute to make that decision?
I think it's because they're afraid of it. They want to get the building up first, maybe, and they don't want to think about those sort of things. And a lot of times when a site is under construction, they're not really thinking about the operation of it. They're thinking about the build. They're thinking about getting to practical completion and handing over and moving on to the next project. So that's why those sort of things get left to last, maybe. And sometimes it's too late and we're restricted in what we can do. So it's important for us to get in early enough to advise and consult, then back away out of the process and come back and know that it's all ready for us when we're ready to go live. And we're lucky enough we would be very strong in the apart hotel space. We would deal with 3 of the top 5 operators in Europe, Stay City, Frasers, Eden, and we do a part of our work with them is consulting on their new builds and sometimes their retrofit projects right across Ireland, the UK and Europe.
So obviously users are consuming more data flow. Clearly you can construct for that, architect for that. You're in a number of countries throughout Europe, and you're in America as well.
Not yet.
Not yet. You're aspirational.
Yeah.
Is that? How do you know there's enough pipe going into the building from the infrastructure to satisfy your needs?
It's a very good question, Sean, because you can only know that from experience. And believe me, we learned the hard way. We cut our teeth on student accommodation in Ireland in the early noughties. We began life in 2003, and providing network to students is probably the most challenging. I equate it to
ton of streaming there, right?
Oh, absolutely. And they back in 2003, they were burning CDs and DVDs and all sorts of things. And I equate, if you can manage a network like that, it's like learning to play guitar in a bad guitar. You'll be able to play any guitar beautifully after that. So we learned the hard way through experience, and now we are experts in knowing exactly how much bandwidth is needed. And sometimes clients will come to us and they'll ask for 10 gig. And we know that to manage 300 people in a building, you don't need any more than 1 gig. and we'll advise then, because sometimes it's hard to understand exactly what symmetrical broadband is and how you manage it. Would you believe me if I told you you really don't need more than 5 meg to do anything? So but as long as that 5 meg is clean, and then you have it to yourself, you really don't need anything else. And that includes HD Skype calls, HD music, movies, and anything. So if you can manage the network properly and make sure that there's enough download and upload as well with symmetrical broadband, you can get pretty good value in a building.
So let's look forward now, right? So if you're supplying hospitals or schools or heavier infrastructure on a go-forward basis, maybe as you expand your business, I mean, what are you seeing in the infrastructural supply that may be coming through national organizations or companies that are deploying their own, infrastructure? Are they building in enough for what is about to happen over the next 5-6 years?
See, I guess there's national broadband projects happening in every country, and there's a lot of debate about who pays for those. There is an argument that Google and Netflix and YouTube should be contributing to governments to roll out these national broadband projects.
So this is an announcement that you're going to be going after these guys, is it? Maybe just nudging them.
Well, do you know if the government asked me, I can do some consulting there and make some recommendations. But would you believe that the 75% of internet traffic today is Netflix and YouTube? That's extraordinary. And those guys, and obviously Google facilitates so much on the internet as well. And those guys, we are providing conduit for those big companies so that we can all view them and use them. Yeah, so like in terms of infrastructure, the major cities have it now. And what's good, utilities might be going up, like electricity, gas, oil. Broadband's coming down. It's against the trend.
So it's the only commodity that's actually coming down?
Absolutely, and not many people know that, but broadband is getting cheaper. So if you know a market and you can play that market. So one of our key clients has 50 hotels across UK and Ireland. And the IT director came to me, we had done some work with them, and he came to me and he said, if the internet goes down in one of our hotels, I don't know who to call. What can you do for me? So what we did was we took over the 50 hotels and the primary and secondary connection, and then we put in place an infrastructure that we could monitor every single hotel, and we could actually get the best value into every hotel depending on the geographic location, and we manage the connectivity. So if the internet goes down in any of those 50 hotels, they ring us, and we know before they know, actually. We'll tell them.
So you've got the full insight here as we go into this. So as we wrap up and we start thinking about tips and takes for the businesses that I'm sure you would love to add to into your portfolio that's attending, what are the 2 quick fire tips and takes for companies that would look at you and say, you've got to do these 2 things and this is why you should select your company?
The main message for me is that connectivity and network within a building is a life cycle. You have to consider the construction phase, the design and planning. You have to consider who's going to operate that building, and you have to also consider what happens in 5 years after that building has been operational. So it's a life cycle, because after 5 years you need to refresh Wi-Fi kit. So I would say take a holistic approach, and someone like us, we can help you with that life cycle.
We are complete advocates for looking at a project holistically, but as importantly, get the pros involved. We've said this again and again, show after show. This isn't a friend recommendation. This is establishing piece by piece, jigsaw piece by jigsaw piece in the tech stack to get somebody to advise you on the architecture. And the builders aren't going to do it for you. You've got to get a company that's led by Leo to do that. So, it's as good as that last mile to watch Netflix and get your business up and running with insight and data. So think about that. So saying goodbye from the show and here at Canary Wharf with the Urban Living Festival, and we'll see you next time.